Module 14. I, Dr. Rita Pratap, Associate Professor, Department of Drawing and Painting, University of Rajasthan, Jaipur. I am going to speak on Shah Jahan, ruled from 1628 to 1658. After the death of Jahangir in 1627, Khurram arranged for the murders of his brothers Khusru and Shahriyar. His brother Khusru's son Dawar Bakhsh and his uncle Danyal's two sons Tahamuraz and Hoshang. When he became emperor in 1628, Khurram used the name Shah Jahan, King of the World, a title Jahangir had given him in 1616. An example is of a painting of Shah Jahan, Master of the Globe, from the Cavorian album Opaque Watercolor and Ink on Paper, dated to 1629 by artist Mir Hashim from the collection of Freer Gallery of Art, Washington, D.C. Shah Jahan inherited not only a great empire but also an atelier of painters who had labored for years to satisfy Jahangir's passion for humanistic and the objective. Impressed by themes and technical refinement of Jahangir painting, Shah Jahan retained many of his father's best artists. Like Jahangir, he preferred albums filled with the pictures and calligraphies of individual masters to Akbar's illustrated manuscripts executed by armies of collaborators. Shah Jahan, whose major preoccupation was architecture, had a preference for pompous and magnificent projects. At his coronation, the emperor, who was gripped by the idea of commissioning the majestic peacock throne, kept aside diamonds and other precious gems worth 10 million to be studied. According to his design, says T.B. Tavernier, at the top of the sloping canopy was the intricately fashioned peacock, with elevated trail made of blue sapphires and other colored stones, having a large ruby front of the breast, from whence hangs a pear-shaped pearl of 50 carats. During Shah Jahan's reign, more travelers came to India from Europe for trade, adventure, employment. Two Frenchmen, François Bernier, a doctor by profession, and Jean-Baptiste Tavernier, a jeweler, and an Italian, Niccolo Manusci, who took service in 1656. Manusci has left an interesting account of the private life of Shah Jahan and his nobles. Love was the preoccupation not alone of their poetry. The intimacy of Shah Jahan with the wives of Jafar Khan and Khalil Ullah Khan, two of his nobles, was so notorious, says Manusci, that when they went to court, the mendicants called out in loud voices to Zafar Khan's wife, "O breakfast of Shah Jahan, remember us." When the wife of Khalilullah Khan went by, they shouted, "O Lucian of Shah Jahan, successor, succor us." The woman had no difficulty in grasping the allusion, took it as a compliment, and ordered alms to be given. As a mistress of Shah Jahan, the wife of Zafar Khan moved about in palanquin covered with a gold embroidered cloth. Surrounding the palanquin were eunuchs carrying fly whisks of peacock feathers stuck into handles of enameled gold work. Thus it would seem as if the only thing Shah Jahan cared for was the search for woman to serve his pleasure, reported Manusci. In 1632, Shah Jahan ordered one of the trumps of monumental building in the world history, the Taj Mahal on the bank of river Yamuna, where his beloved wife Mumtaz Mahal was buried. He restored the importance of Delhi by building the Red Fort, red for its sandstone walls, which enclosed his palace and the Pearl Mosque. In the east wall was the Nakar Khana, which sheltered a band consisting of drums and trumpets. The hall of public audience had numerous columns and engrailed arches. Diwan-e-Khas, the hall of private audience, the peacock throne named for its two peacocks with tails, expanded into gigantic fans at the back. The peacocks were inlaid with rubies, sapphires, pearls and precious stones. The harem contained spacious apartments for the queens and women of lesser rank. Shah Jahan patronized music and poetry in Persian and Hindi. One of his favorite was Sundar Das, a Hindi poet who wrote the Sundar Shringar, a book of classification of lovers. Another poet, Chintamani, composed a version of the Ramayana. One Devdutt wrote a play and treatise on rhetoric and prosody. Shah Jahan's another favorite was a Vaishnavite Brahman named Jagannath, who wrote a book of erotic poetry known as the Ras Gangadhar. It is said that Shah Jahan reduced the number of artists in the service of the court, retaining the most talented. The sulpras found employment with the nobles and served their vanity by making a great many portraits. Apart from these two distinguished categories of artists, a third group, more in nature of artisans, were employed in the workshops along with embroiderers and goldsmiths. They were responsible for the mass production of paintings of no particular merit, many of which have found their way into modern collections. An example of a painting is of the arrival of Portuguese emissary in Shah Jahan's court by Baba Ustad, dated to 1645 and in the collection of a private person. The Portuguese, after a grant from the Mughal, raised a well-fortified fort in Bengal. They were, however, feared and despised for privacy and brigandage till 1632, when Shah Jahan sanctioned an expedition against them and completely destroyed their settlement. The Portuguese emissary sought an audience with the emperor in 1630 in the court of elites, Diwan-e-Khas. The emperor sits on the marble balcony with a green nimbus. A good number of portraits in strict profile, ek chashma or three-quarter, paune do chashma, are indeed authentic. Sumptuously patterned brocade costumes, gem-encrusted weapons and carpets spectacularly designed with flower heads and scrolling stems are typical of the era. A beautiful example of a Mughal painting of Shah Jahan period is a standing portrait of Shah Jahan by Bichittar, dated to 1631 and in the collection of Victoria and Albert Museum. It shows firm line in drawing, rich coloring and tones. Painting during the first half of his reign continued in the tradition of the previous era. A few magnificently assembled albums befitting imperial splendor and an illustrated history of his reign, the Shahjahnama, dated to 1656 to 1657, are the best masterpieces. There are splendid darbar scenes of the emperor on dais or the peacock throne. Such darbar scenes from Shahjahnama shows Shah Jahan being weighed against bags of gold. This opulent ceremony was performed annually on the birthday of the emperor, and the gold was then distributed in charity to the poor. The scene is laid in the hall of public audience. In the foreground are the nobles sumptuously dressed in silk and muslin coats and wearing embroidered sashes at the waist, but standing barefooted on a floral carpet to show their profound humility. In front of the emperor are two of his sons wearing pearl robes on their necks and turban. In the lower corner, a group of mullahs have their hands outstretched in benediction. The portraiture of the faces is superb. All show deep reverence for the emperor, wealthiest of the Mughals, who was addressed as the king of the world, the asylum of the nations, the ornament of the world, the king of kings. This painting indeed shows the splendor of the Mughal court. Portraits were also popular with the artists of Shah Jahan, chief among whom were Muhammad Fakir Ullah Khan, Mir Hashim, Muhammad Nadir, Bichittar, Chittarman, Anup Chattar, Manohar and Honhar. Some portraits have highly ornamented borders decorated with figures of men, plants and animals. Those of Shah Jahan are gorgeously nimbused. Like his predecessors, Shah Jahan was fond of hunting, and this was a favorite theme of his artists. When the emperor planned to go out hunting, huntsmen were sent in advance to locate the quarry. Once spotted, cows, buffaloes, sheep and goats were let loose in the jungle. These kept the lions in position and busy until the royal hunting party arrived. As a further safeguard, the jungle was encircled with high nets, leaving only one opening through which the emperor and the princes mounted on elephants entered armed with matchlocks. An example is of a painting of Shah Jahan period in which Shah Jahan is shown hunting lions. This painting is from Shah Jahan Nama dated to 1657 and from the collection of Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II shows the final result. Apart from his delight in lovely women, one of Shah Jahan's chief amusements was watching elephant fights that were arranged on the strip of land between the Red Fort and the river Yamuna. The king sat in a window overlooking the arena while the ladies watched through the trellis screens. Between two elephants was the mud wall about 3 feet and 6 feet high. Coaxed by their drivers who were armed with iron hooks, the elephants rushed to each other, colliding like a military tanks, their enormous skulls striking with great force and inflicted dreadful wounds with their tusks and trunks. In the last stage of the fight, the mud wall was thrown down and the stronger elephant chased his opponent, putting him to fight. On occasion, the elephants were so much entangled that they could be separated only by exploding fireworks between them. Elephant fights and men controlling musk elephants with fireworks and spears are shown in a number of paintings of the Shah Jahan period. Painting achieved a new delicacy and romantic flavor in Shah Jahan's reign. The rulers were no longer barbarians from beyond the mountains. Paintings reflected the warm sensuousness of India. Since it was a period of comparative peace and the Mughal Empire was confident of its security and power, themes of warfare and bloodshed disappeared. In their place came courtly splendor and magnificence, love and romance. The artist portrayed the romances of Laila Majnu, Khushru and Shireen, Kamrup and Kamal Lata, and of Roopmati and Baz Bahadur. Thus, it was an age of pleasure and calm. Other paintings showed princesses in transparent muslin blouses seated on terraces surrounded by their female servants listening to music. One such painting is Ladies Listening to Music dated to 1658 and in the collection of Punjab Museum, Chandigarh. Another painting is the portrait of Shah Daulat painted by Bichittar and dated to 1632 to 1633 and it is in the collection of Chester Beatty. This painting is of celebrated Mohammedan saint Shah Daulat who lived during the reigns of Jahangir, Shah Jahan and Aurangzeb. He was credited with the magical powers. The portrait is an impressive example of the art it had developed towards the middle of 17th century, especially of the mastery of facial expression obtained. In another painting, Shahjahan is visiting a religious teacher. This is from the British Museum collection as Lawrence Binyon quotes, "It is the finest, the most felt and most complete example of its type which he had seen." Another painting belonging to the Shahjahan period is a group of ascetics, also from the collection of British Museum and dates to the early years of Shahjahan's reign. In this painting, both Hindus and Muslims are shown, the figures being carefully differentiated, a little stiff and symmetrical. The group under the holy banyan tree is nevertheless constructed with considerable originality. Another painting of Shahjahan period is a student with his teacher, dated to 1630, ink on paper, from the collection of Virginia Museum of Fine Arts. This sensitive Mughal drawing from Shahjahan period depicts a princely student on the left listening to the lesson given by his teacher. The conventionally handsome youth dressed in a fashionable jama and an elegant turban with a pushed dagger tucked inside his sash. His teacher, a bearded old man, is wearing a large turban, a long coat, gestures with his right hand as though explaining the text of the book held in his left hand. Inkwell and a pen lie near his feet. Minutely written on the pages of his book is the Bismillah, in the name of the God, a religious phrase pronounced by Muslims at the beginning of every important endeavor. This seems to be a preparatory sketch or a study made on the basis of an already finished work. 2 pages from late Shahjahan album dated to 1650 is also in the collection of Virginia Museum of Fine Art. The first painting is of Ram Singh of Amer, a full-length portrait of a Rajput courtier who was specially close to the Mughals. Ram Singh, the eldest son of Mirza Raja Jai Singh, ruler of Amer. Ram Singh's portrait was painted when he was 20 years old and still a prince. Standing on a grassy field beneath a prettily colored sky, he wears a colorful turban of gold and red patterned fabric, a white gauze jama tied with a floral patka, pajama made of opulent gold cloth covered with rows of flowers. He holds a pushed dagger, sword and shield. The border has people associated with the subject of the portrait. 4 of these figures bear weapons and are undoubtedly Ram Singh's subordinates. One is musician who plays a stringed instrument and the remaining 2 are probably courtiers. The other side of the album page contains a panel of Persian calligraphy set within elegantly painted floral borders, the tale taken from Gulistan Rose Garden. The second page is a portrait of a Mughal woman, a Mughal beauty standing against a green background amid the flowers of a grassy sward. She wears a pajama, a choli, a peswaj, an odhni and patka. The miniature is framed by Mughal decoration motif of par excellence. She wears garments fashionable during Shahjahan's day. Another painting shows the 3 sons of Shahjahan, belonging to Shahjahan period, dated to 1637 and at present in the British Museum, London. The inscription at the bottom shows that it is the work of artist Balchand, but it is also attributed to Bichittar, painter to Shahjahan. The miniature represents the 3 princes, Shuja, Aurangzeb and Murad Bakhsh, riding across the countryside. They are shown in profile against a hilly landscape, but the interest is centered solely on them. Their clothes, their plumed turbans, their weapons, spear in the right hand and sword in the belt, the harness of their horses are all treated with naturalism that characterizes the Mughal school under the reign of Shahjahan. Another painting shows Shahjahan hunting storks and Chinese ducks, dated to 1640, and it is in the private collection. Apart from possessing interest in favorite sport, here one can see Shahjahan on a pleasure boat accompanied by his favorite son Dara Shikoh, Grand Vizier Asad Khan and many other chosen grandees. The royal green barge with a wooden bust of a horse attached has lotuses painted around it. The progress of the marching cavalcade, rendered in minuscule proportion, was grafted to add an effect of receding background. Such a treatment, however, achieved greater currency in later examples. The effect of Durunama, receding distance, is enhanced with the softly banded horizon beyond the vast field and grey mauve clouds edged with gold against a terravert sky.